Welcome to Single Leg Parlays Week 3 of College Football Review. We're going to go through all the games that mattered the most and a lot of games that didn't matter worth a shit, except if you were gambling. We got a lot to go through today, a lot of awards to give away. We're calling out suspects. We're doing all of it here. But before we do another damn thing, got Andy, got Al, I'm Matt. Let's drink some beer. What do you say?
Cheers.
Cheers, boys.
Oh, there was not much there. All right. I'm going to warn you on the front end. While we got you rich last week, we didn't help you out that much this week. We had a little bit of a down week in general. TikTok best bets, 2 and 4. Not awesome. Pod best bets, 1 and 4. Not awesome. But
some actively bad.
That was actively bad. It was not a great week. But let's highlight the good marks. Danny, 10 and 7. God, bringing the heat on 17 picks. It's pretty impressive. 58%. That's some units upped. I went 5 and 3. Pulled a 62.5% for the week. Real nice. The rest of the boys, not great. Doesn't really matter. Collectively, we went 23 and 29. 44% winning percentage. Not good. We're going to say that on the front end. But our promise to you is we will be better this week. I don't know if I can promise that, but we're going to try to be better this week. But we can talk about overall season. We are 79 and 71, 53%, right at that sweet spot of where you need to be. So and that's coming off a pretty bad week. So let's make some profit this week. That's the idea. Some numbers to notify Chris, myself, and Danny are above 58% as a team. Really good. 2 of our most avid bettors, the 2 men sitting next to me on this camera, off to a little bit slower start, but you know that shit's going to pick up. That's the best part of that, right? Gambling, you can't, don't worry about it, baby. Just keep throwing your wallet at it, Yeah. But we had a really great week in college football. Some teams really bounced back, impressively well. Notre Dame, top of mind. Notre Dame absolutely brought the noise. Tennessee, what a statement. And I'm going to go to Andy's choice because they had a very impressive week. Andy, what team impressed you the most this week?
Alabama. So we were down on them a lot last week. Matt even made a very funny joke where he had us all list the top 3 teams in the SEC. Not planned, just because he thought none of us would say Bama, and none of us did, and it was very funny. But it turns out that the Alabama in the last 8 minutes of the South Florida game, that's the real Alabama, because they showed up for the full 60 minutes today. They stomped Wisconsin in Camp Randall. I'm not saying Alabama is back. I'm not saying they're the 3rd best team in the SEC, but they're not to be written off. They're not a team that's less good than South Florida. And they really showed that this week.
Yeah, I mean, sometimes an average to bad team, even with home field advantage, still gets blown out at home because they're playing Alabama, right?
Yeah.
And TVD got hurt midway through the game, and it just wasn't the same after that.
Yeah,
but Alabama had that thing locked.
They should have borrowed Graham Mertz.
Could have had him back.
Well, I think Florida would give him back.
Yeah.
It's true. It's a lose-lose situation for everybody. Al, who impressed you the most this week?
I'm going to be weird. I'm going to go Pitt here. I feel like for the longest time, we've talked about how Pitt is just ugly football, right? It's defense first. It's not much going on offensively. And through 3 games, they've hung 121 points on their opponents, and they've also given up 85. So I don't know. Is Pitt fun? Because I think they might be fun.
Yeah, I have a little context here. So last year, Narduzzi was getting a lot of pressure because he loves to be real boring in football, and I think the Pitt alums were like, "Look, we can't necessarily fire you, but we can kind of force your hand that you have to do something more exciting." So they went out and got this guy named Cade Bell. Cade Bell, nothing impressive, kind of just laid under the radar, but he was the head coach at Western Carolina where he would put up stats. crazy stats, and they brought him in as offensive coordinator. And it looks like it's paying dividends because that Pitt team is super fun. And that's the first time I've ever said that. Like,
Yeah.
who was a quarterback? Kenny Pickett was fine, right? But you never say that Pitt team was super fun. Like Larry Fitzgerald was fun, right? Tony
Yeah.
Dorsett, Dan Marino, those guys were fun, but that's like ancient history.
And even then, it was like they were fun, but Pitt was not.
Yeah, they
You
were
know?
just not fun.
Yeah.
But I think Cade Bell really makes a difference here, and that's really inside Pitt football. So I'll let you guys have more fun with this
Yeah,
topic.
I
agree
just
with you.
think if you've written off Pitt the same way we have, it might be worth popping on ESPN Plus next time you're looking for a game to pop on.
I like that.
My team was Kansas State. I was high on them maybe at the beginning of the year. The last few weeks, they had not made me feel very good about how high I was on them. They did beat Tennessee Martin by 35, and then they barely beat Tulane, who may be more of a dog than everyone was giving credit for, right? At the beginning of the year, I kind of thought Tulane was going to have a big regression with Willie Fritz not being at Houston. But then they kind of fought against Oklahoma pretty tough. But this week, they had a really good matchup against Arizona, a pretty good Arizona team that I feel like I've talked about more than anyone you'll listen to on college football podcasts that don't live in the state of Arizona. And they worked them. They kicked their ass. Avery Johnson looked good, even with his stupid hair. That team looked like a well-oiled machine. Chris Kleiman is not the biggest regret I had is picking against them, forgetting about Chris Kleiman and how good of a coach he is. That dude is an A-plus coach. He's up there with Uncle Kyle. Guys that make a difference at teams where you don't get A-plus recruits. That's the most impressive one of the week. They kicked ass. And they
Is Avery Johnson like college Taysom Hill? Like, I feel like he's more of a running back than a quarterback. Like, I don't know.
Well, he's also really young.
He's also very young. He's also very light-skinned. So I get all of that. I can see that Taysom Hill comparison for sure. But yeah, that was the most impressive team. Let's get to the suspect teams. I am not picking my own university. I'm not even talking about them today. So I'm going to bypass this and let you guys go first, but it will not be Florida State for me. I just want to put that on the front end. Andy, who's most suspect?
So before I get to that, I don't think anybody was thinking Florida State for this because to be suspect, you have to kind of have some expectations.
Yeah,
at least in my mind.
They've been convicted.
They were suspect the first 2 weeks.
They're in the clink.
Yeah. So,
True.
although that kind of goes against my pick here, which is UCLA. I know you started the season by saying UCLA is not going to be very good, but they got destroyed yesterday by Indiana, and you just can't let that happen at home. So UCLA is my suspect pick. Fun conference matchup, but apart from that, very, very suspect football game from UCLA.
It's the matchup that dreams are made of when you talk about conferences. When
Really
Bloomington, Indiana travels all the way to Los Angeles, La La Land, it makes perfect sense.
Sure does. Just a short bus ride away.
Whoop some ass and pop over to what is it, Brahman's Chinese Theater to see some Hollywood stars, and
They probably swung through Whataburger. Not Whataburger. In-N-Out.
In-N-Out, yeah.
yeah.
But I knew UCLA was going to be bad when Chip Kelly decided to leave $6 million as the head coach to go be the offensive coordinator at Ohio State for $1 million. That's when I was like, something ain't great. Now, the Ohio State job seems like a dream. I get it. Like, especially for a guy, we talked about this last year, a guy who likes to just draw plays in the sand and not recruit is like a dream scenario for him. But $5 million is a lot to turn down.
Chip Kelly's kind of a black hole, huh? Everywhere he's left has been like down bad.
He's coached down bad. He's like
a I don't know, skill magnet. Like just absorbs it, takes it with him. I don't know.
He's like a skill succubus.
It's like the Grim Reaper showing up on your doorstep and being like, "I'm here to coach your football team," and you're like, "I don't want you. No, thank you."
Al, who's most suspect?
Yeah, this is something I wanted to talk about because I think I actually saw Bud Elliott mention this, but there have been some absolute dog shit games on like network national broadcasts this season, and I don't know if it's because the quirk of the schedule and there just aren't better matchups to put in those windows, but I don't know. I feel like I'm scanning my TV and I'm like, I gotta go find some Arby's app or something to watch a good game on because this whatever's on ABC is like fucking Syracuse and Central Connecticut or something. I don't know. Maybe it's just me, but it's
No,
not been pretty.
I agree with you. I think there was such a high in week 1, and that week 2 came around and week 3 came around, and they weren't great. A lot of teams had buys this week. I think like 7 of the top 10 teams were on bye, outside of like Georgia and a few other teams. It hasn't been great. I do think it will pick up. And it's also, no one knows how good these teams are this early, right? Florida State was ranked in the top 10. Notre Dame was in number 7 to start the year. Michigan was number 6. When these things change, you never know what the fallout's going to be. So I think we're going to get some more balance, and then all these schedules change week to week going forward. So I think you're going to see a reshuffled deck of primetime games that make more sense.
Yes, they damn well better.
Yeah, my most suspect team, my Kaiser Soze, is Oklahoma. Look, I think I talked about this last week. You got rid of Dylan Gabriel because you felt like Jackson Arnold was going to be better. And he may be, but you do not look good. Like, Venable's seat has got to be pretty warm right now. And maybe Tulane's better than everyone gives them credit because they did fight hard with Kansas State as well. But you were damn near out of that game. You won by 12. But if you watched any part of that game, it was hairy. A pick 6 to bring the game within 4 late. It was a bad example. You have Tennessee coming this week. You better get your shit right. If not, it's going to be embarrassing in Norman, Oklahoma, to the loyal faithful. Let's do a recap. So, as gamblers, instead of saying, hey, we always kick ass, we like to own up our losses. This is a segment we like to call out, Boy, Was I Wrong? I'll start this off. Boy, was I wrong on the under in Tennessee, Kent State. The score was under 62, and Tennessee had 62 in the first half themselves. And it was not good for your boy. I thought Tennessee would call off the dogs. It's going to go into my award season as well coming up, but I was very wrong, and it was gross, and I hated every minute of watching it. Andy?
Yeah, so my boy was I wrong was UMass. I can say this because Danny's not here. Danny, I think you guys did this in week 1. You guys bet on UMass, and he told you don't do it. He was absolutely right. And then last week, I bet on UMass, and he told me don't do it, and he was absolutely right again. It was never close. They were never in that game. I thought the difference was that you guys laid points with UMass. I was at least taking points with UMass.
Yeah, but that was like the novelty of it, right? Like, when is UMass ever favored? Like, let's do it,
You had to. Yeah. It was for sport.
Dance with the devil.
But it was never close. Danny was absolutely right.
Yeah. I actually think, like, if there was a line out, I'd probably have taken UMass tonight because I think they're playing like Central Connecticut actually, and I'm sure they'll be favored by something small because they're bad, but that's like playing a middle school team. For me, yeah, I was wrong about just about everything. If I had to take one game that sticks out, it would probably be either Indiana or UCLA or Mizzou. Really thought we'd see one or both of those teams perform better. I think Andy kind of summed it up with UCLA. So to Mizzou's point, it felt like they kept, like they were this close to pulling away several times, and then they just, would make a mistake, let BC back in. I don't know.
Maybe Danny's been right. Maybe Danny's really right this year that the ACC is just a bunch of 7 and 5 because I came away. Boston College was almost my most impressive team this week. They played great. They played as well as you can against a guy like Luther Burden, who you can't stop. You just want to reduce the risk of him killing you. And they played really well. I'm super impressed, super high on Boston College. So maybe that's it. Maybe it's just ACC is leveling out. Everyone's going to be 7-5 except for Miami at the end of the year. Miami and Louisville, maybe like those two will be left. I don't know. Yeah, you were very wrong.
Don't underestimate the bad ACC teams, and definitely you're overestimating the good ACC teams.
Any good ACC team, your expectation is wrong.
It's
Dropping
happening.
down a couple wins. 9-3 is right where the top of the ACC lives. On single leg parlay, normally we like to give our respects and present an award to something we saw really impressive over the college football or the NFL weekend. Al, who would you like to give an award to?
Yeah, I have a shiny award called the Ducks in a Row Award, and I'm giving this to the Oregon Ducks for getting their ducks in a row. Team, they looked incredibly underwhelming for their first couple games, and then they came out and dog walked Oregon State in Beaverton. Was never a contest. So maybe they got their shit together finally. What about you, Andy? What side what's your award that you're giving out?
Yeah, my award this week is going to be the I Will Survive Award, and I'm giving it to Georgia. They weren't impressive at all. There was one touchdown in that game, and it's what they needed to win by 1 against Kentucky. But this is early enough in the season, and it's a win that it's not going to hurt them long term. They survived, right? That's all you got to do.
Yeah.
It was ugly. I'm sure Kirby Smart is screaming at them as we record this, but
yeah, that award should be called Between the Edges, because this is like college football edging. It's like Kentucky just fucking finished the job already. Like, you're right there, just fucking do it. Like, nothing annoys me more than having a team that close to knocking off number 1 and then just letting them slip away.
Does it change your opinion of Georgia at all, this outcome?
It's really early for one of these kind of whoopsie games where they eked out the W anyway. So I think the alarms are raised, but the flags are up, but the alarms aren't going off, maybe is a good way to put it.
Yeah.
High alert.
I'm like more open to changing my opinion in the future, but I haven't changed it yet. It's like one more of these and I will change my opinion. But the first one is more just like kind of raise your eyebrows and like, you sure about that? You sure about that?
I think they're going to be fine. I really wish Georgia was playing this week because they would absolutely destroy whatever spread. Give me any number, and I'm laying them with Georgia. Unfortunately, they get a week off before they face Alabama next time out. So that is going to be a feisty ass bunch.
Are we betting Bama? Oh Lord!
I am betting Georgia.
I'm gonna lay them with Georgia probably. Yeah.
I think it's one of those games where you got caught off guard. You underestimated a team that looked really bad against South Carolina, so you assume you can go in there and dog walk them. Maybe South Carolina's okay. That game, by the way, I don't know if you guys watched the South Carolina LSU game. That was the game of the week. As far as entertainment, it was awesome. And the crazy thing is South Carolina didn't even play that well, but it had like 6 70-yard plays, and that is always exciting. The great equalizer is the explosive.
It's the beauty of college football is when you have 100 games, you're bound to get 3 or 4 really good ones every week.
Oh, that was awesome.
What did they miss the field goal that would have forced overtime as time expired?
Yeah.
Yeah.
My award is called the Not Demure, Not Mindful Award. And this goes to Coach Heupel at University of Tennessee. So we talked about this. Tennessee was absolutely dog walking. And I dog walking is too subtle of a word. They were like, they had killed Kent State, buried them, unburied them, lit them on fire, and then pissed on them just to make sure they were dead. At this point of the game, they were up 30-0 in the first quarter. And what does Josh Heupel decide to do? Go for an onside kick. What kind of fucking asshole are you? Where that's your game plan is to try to murder them more. It's not necessary. Why would you do it? I don't know what you were trying to prove. I would have kept that in the coffer for a game where maybe that's
right.
I don't know what the game plan was, unless he's doing some Jedi mind trick where he's going to do like the newest onside kick strategy no one's ever thought of. What's the point? Not mindful, not Tamir at all.
It is not.
You're not being modest in the least bit. You're just being the biggest asshole on the planet, and it was awesome. Except for me, who bet the under, because then you scored a touchdown. You scored back-to-back touchdowns in like a minute, and it was all over from there.
I've heard that Heupel's kind of an asshole too, like back to his UCF days. But like I never really got the vibe that like the players didn't like him, so I think it is just like I'm just gonna be a total asshole, try and like he's just doing it to do it, you know. He's like Lane Kiffin, but like without the fun qualities.
I mean, the offense is he's not like cheeky. I hope Ole Miss plays Tennessee this year, and I think they do.
Like Megatron Lane Kiffin.
I'm in for the meme festival that will become. Yeah. Can I ask you guys a question? So that was our awards ceremony. I just got a couple questions on the way out. What's the point of the Pac-2 expanding? Can someone explain this to me? I don't know if everyone saw, but Washington State and Oregon State own the rights to the Pac-12, which is awesome. Everyone else left, and they're still there, so they should get all the monetary rights. So they're trying to recruit other teams to join the Pac-12. And I think they got 4 on board. I think it's like Boise State, San Diego State, Fresno State. Someone else.
Yeah, I think it's like 6 schools or something like that. Because I think they are 4, and they need to get to 10 to have a meet the minimum requirement. I think it's all the whole point of it is to be able to win one of those big conference buys.
They already said that the new Pac-12 will not get an automatic buy, right? They can compete as far as like the group of 5 arrangement where they can be like, hey, we're the highest rank of the group of 5, so we automatically get a playoff bid. But I don't think it matters. Like, Andy, I want to get your opinion before I go off.
Yeah, I don't know that I really understand it either. I guess just the history, right? You've got a brand name that has some value. You want to see if you can do something about it. This kind of makes Washington State and Oregon State the big dogs in their conference versus if they'd gone to the ACC and they'd be, at the bottom. So, they're trying something. I give them points for trying. I don't know that it's going to work out quite the way they wanted to. But yeah, I think they feel like they have a brand name. Why not give it a shot? Be the big dogs. I wish.
Okay, so in 2 years, the membership will be Air Force, Hawaii, Nevada, New Mexico, San Jose State, UNLV, Utah State, Wyoming, Washington State, and Oregon State.
Yeah, it's like all the Mountain West.
They rated the Mountain West.
But who gives a shit? Like, not in a bad way, but like it doesn't change anything. I like Mountain West football. I'm fine with it. I love football that exists at midnight. I think it's great.
I have 2 fun conspiracy theories. One is, these were teams the Pac-12 was looking to poach to expand before everyone left them behind and jumped ship for the Big Ten. That's option 1. Option 2 is these are 2 ADs panicking and being like, who do we gotta add more to the conference. Like, they're not gonna let us exist. We don't want to be independent. We need a conference, I don't know. I mean, the other thing is like other sports, right? So I don't know if other sports play a factor.
Like, I don't even think of what do you equate when you think Wyoming? What sport comes to your head? Like, is that basketball? Yeah. Okay. Like, maybe they're good at skiing, and there could be some credence there. I'm not trying to be like an elitist as far as my college sports. The only thing I could think is if they could try to pull a merger with like the ACC, who's like problematic, and try to make like a super conference. But I don't think it makes the ACC any stronger, right? Like it would.
I don't think the ACC. I legitimately think the Pac-12 teams that jumped ship for the ACC, just like the Pac-12 teams that jumped ship for the Big Ten, were like, this is contingent on you not bringing these other 2 schools. Like they're blackballed, so like they cannot join those conferences. So what do you do in that sense? In that point,
I mean, it's a lot like if those 2 schools joined the Mountain West. except you're like, oh, well, we've got a cooler brand name and more history. So instead of us joining you, why don't you join us?
Clear Pepsi Mountain West.
Exactly.
I don't get it. I don't get what the end game here is. I'm guessing they have TV contracts, but obviously they were not enticing enough to keep anyone around. I don't even know if they did get a TV contract across the line. I don't know. And I feel super bad for Oregon State and Washington State. I want that on the front end because I think Al has to be right. I was wondering why the ACC didn't just absorb them as well, because then at least you could like kind of do some regional potting, and that could be fun, right? Like there could be a Southeast, the Carolinas, the Northeast, and then a Northwest division. And you guys could play like cross like the NFL does. And I think that would be really, really like a fun experiment. But you have to be right, Al, because I don't know why they got left out in the dust. It doesn't make any sense. Those poor bastards. And Pullman and Corvallis.
Hey, at least Washington State won this weekend.
They did, and that felt good. I told you that was my game of the week, the Apple Cup, and I'm glad the Apple Cup. Washington got the
Big Apple.
I'm not going to answer this question, but I'm going to just pose it to the group. Who is the worst team in the ACC? Realistically, who would you choose right now at the end of the year will be the worst team in the ACC? I'm going to shut up and listen.
Yeah, so there's
Kind
only
of
two
a
teams.
masochist, huh, Matt?
There's only two teams it could be. There's only three if Matt's on the pod. So, yeah, I don't
Alex,
know.
what do you got?
Yeah, to me it's Wake Forest, and if you don't want to go with Wake Forest, it's Stanford, and if Matt's listening, it's FSU. Because those are the only teams. I think Clemson is the other team that doesn't have a winning record currently in the ACC. But like overall, not in conference. And Clemson is obviously not the worst team in the ACC. FSU technically has the worst record in the ACC, so you can give them, that sort of counts. But I mean, in reality, it's Wake Forest or Stanford if you want to get cheeky, but it's Wake to me.
Yeah, I think that might be right eventually, but I think like if you're asking me this question today, which you are, I gotta say Florida State. Like they haven't shown me anything. The Georgia Tech game to start off the season in Ireland was close, right? Like a few balls bounced the other way, and that could have been a different conversation. But the other two games I guess they kind of came back a little bit yesterday.
It's gotten progressively worse too. Like,
yeah, it just looks bad. There's like nothing to hang your hat on.
I highly recommend the video too if you guys are listening to this. It's like miming
yourself,
what we're saying. It's fantastic.
No, I would say Florida State technically is the worst team. I just didn't know as we said, but I don't know if like the grand landscape, the bigger landscape. I'm just being myopic here. If Florida State's actually the worst over the duration of the season. Now, I do see Florida State could play this a couple different ways. If you go youth, I think it could get worse, but it could be better. You know, like if you're testing out your young quarterbacks, be like, look, we have nothing to play for this year. If we go 4-8 with DJU, what's the point, right? You can go 3-9 or 2-10 with a young quarterback, but have something to sell. Or, I mean, maybe you go 6-6. Maybe you backdoor a bowl. I don't see that happening at this point. Yeah. It was predicated on getting some of these wins early to get to a bowl. But
I think this is all Jordan Travis's fault.
Yeah,
I think Jordan Travis was a unique prospect that made the idea of DJU seem palatable, nay, replicable, and it's just not. Is there a quarterback with as much hype going into college that has underperformed as much as he has?
That's a really good question.
Yeah.
There is, but DJU was like so highly regarded when he came out of California.
And even at like each stop too. It's not even like it's like Teflon, man. I don't know.
That's a really, really good question. I know Joe Milton was really, really hyped because of his arm strength, but I don't think he was disastrous. Like, trying to think.
Well, also, yeah, he wasn't like handed the reins the
No,
whole time too. He yeah,
I
it's a
don't
unique
know.
situation, I think.
Yeah, he's been so bad. So bad. I don't know. All right. That's all I got for you guys. Make sure you go to TikTok and follow Single Leg Parlay. Follow Single Leg Parlay Andy. He gives out that fire going forward. We're going to have some real winners in there. And you can get all our picks where I don't give picks on the pod anymore because it's overwhelming. But get all of our picks. Go to singlelegparlay.com and you can just sign up, subscribe, and we'll slide right in your inbox and just slip in the picks. Just slip it right in without you even asking.
Yeah.
We're embracing
oftentimes without any tips. just straight picks.
Straight picks, no tips. But either way, right? Our record was not great this week. We're still at 53%. I expect that number to go up. I expect these two fellas next to me to get on absolute heaters. And hey, thank you for listening. Cheers.
Cheers. Peace.
Cheers.
Thanks for listening to the newly rebranded Single Leg Parlay podcast. Visit our website at www.singlelegparlay.com, where you can read more of our thoughts, as well as subscribing to our newsletter to have our picks delivered straight to your inbox each week. And don't forget to follow Single Leg Parlay on all of your favorite social media platforms. Cheers!